Fortnite Season 3 has an insane new loot pool, so I'm going to rank every single item from ones you should only pick up in the early game to some of the most insanely broken items that Fortnite has ever seen. First up, the heals and the staples that are in pretty much every single season. Let's just put these already into their tiers because we don't really need to speak about minis and bigs. Let's go into the good stuff. Now, Fortnite Season 3 has 3 assault rifles, but which one's actually the best? The first one is the Spire assault rifle, which is incredibly strong. It has a massive clip size of 50, but it has a slightly slower fire rate than traditional assault rifles, so it's more like a heavy assault rifle. It doesn't have a scope, and the main downside of this is definitely the fact that it has a really slow pullout time, being around 600 milliseconds, which is double of most other assault rifles. However, with the massive clip size, you can basically just continually spam over and over and over again, and it takes forever before you actually have to reload, so you can continually apply pressure and stop other players healing from a distance. The Fury assault rifle was already in this chapter, and it is really good, but in other seasons it wasn't really picked up that much because other assault rifles had a scope. Now that both of the two main assault rifles, the Spire and the Fury, don't have scopes, the strength of this gun is a little bit more obvious. It's good at medium ranges, but it really is actually better in that close range and just for box fighting and wall replacing. And then there's finally the Deadeye DMR. This is the only one of these three that actually has a scope, but it also has a bullet drop and travel time, so it's not a hit scan weapon. This is obviously going to be the main Storm Surge weapon for the season, where players are just going to sit in towers and try to tag each other from a long distance. Of course, it does a high amount of damage for a single shot. I think the Spire assault rifle is by far the best. However, both the Spire and the Fury are meta items, and the DMR would be a meta item, but there just aren't that many tournaments where players are going to actually be trading Storm Surge, so I'm just going to put it in 2 strong. Alright, which of the 3 shotguns is the best? This is also going to be incredibly quick. The Sentinel Pump is incredibly strong with its high structure damage and just good overall body and headshot damage. It's a strong staple pump shotgun that we've seen for the last 2 seasons, getting the Star Wars season. But the other 2 shotguns are just completely awful. The Twin Fire, aka the bald shotgun, you're only picking that up if you're in the early game. Same thing with the Outlaw shotgun. It does absolutely no damage, runs out and you have to reload it all the time. Unsurprisingly, Sentinel Pump is the meta, and the other 2 get them straight into the early game only tier. Onto the SMGs. Now, the Veiled Precision SMG is actually pretty good this season because it's the only hit scan weapon that has a scope. So at medium distances, you can guarantee some damage. I don't think it's the meta for Storm Surge or anything, but it's definitely strong, and I definitely think we'll see some players carrying this in FNCS. You can't really say the same for the Surge Fire. But one time I've tried to use this, I nearly died while 50-50ing, and then I did die the second time with it, so purely for my own sake, I'm putting this into early game. Moving on to the pistols, and this is a really interesting round because these 2 weapons are insanely fun. Firstly, we have the Kill Switch revolvers, which are, I think they may be the most fun Fortnite item of all time. Whilst you're in the air, if you ADS, you go into a slow-mo mode, which allows you to have 100% accuracy whilst you are ADSing. You can also double jump in the sky, which will allow you to cancel any fall damage. Now, it deals really good damage. However, I don't think it's as good as, say, the Spire assault rifle, because in order to get that 100% accuracy, you do have to be doing the slow-mo mode in the sky. And in order to do that, you actually have to jump, which means you will be exposed and you're going to take a lot of damage back. It's super fun, and it is actually a viable weapon, but it's just going into strong. The next pistol is the Hyper Burst pistol, and this is one that actually uses mini ammo. And honestly, I had a lot of fun messing around with this earlier. It's worth carrying, and if you're in trios and the 2 other players are using medium ammo and you need to use mini ammo, this is actually pretty viable. Now, I do believe that the Veiled Precision is stronger, but this is still actually just a good pistol, so I'm going to put it straight into balanced. Now, moving on to the final items, we've got 3 exotics that are currently in the meta, and the first one is the Unstable Frostfire Shotgun. Now, this is pretty much just a gold Sentinel Pump shotgun, but it has a strange side effect. When you hit an enemy player, it either gives you a pepper effect, or it slows them down and gives them like icy feet, I think. It did happen to me once. I did get hit by it, but I've not had enough time to test it. This is a gold pump with extra bonuses, so obviously this is going straight into the meta. Next is the Unstable Yoink Shotgun, which is an outlaw shotgun. Editing Reese, this thing is truly awful. The whole gimmick is it pulls the player towards you, and yeah, straight in early game. And the final exotic is the Unstable Voltage Burst pistol. Now, this is the same burst pistol as before. However, the first and the final shots of the clip shoot a shockwave, so you can use this to rotate yourself. It doesn't send you as far as a normal shockwave, but it is still pretty good and pretty useful. If you're on height, you can just shoot this onto low ground and try fire players into storm. Plus, the weapon itself is actually still really strong, so I'm going to put this into the meta as well. Now, on to the season specific other items. Now, this is where things get insanely broken. Firstly, the base boost. Now, the right click of this, or the alternative fire, is just a high jump. And this is insanely fun. You can do some really cool little tricks with this, as you can jump and get peek shots onto players up above. However, the left click shoots a base blast. Now, this can also be used to rotate yourself. If you jump and shoot at the floor, you can fly high up. You can do this 2 or 3 times depending on the rarity. If you don't jump, it'll not knock you back, so it's kind of similar to like a flint knock. However, it just destroys every single build it hits. So there's a lot of insanely broken phasing in strategies that you can do. Whether you're diagonal, you put a ramp over your head, you can phase in. If you're just on top, you can just shoot it at the floor and you'll just fall straight into someone's box. Or if you're just far away from people, you can just spam this at players who are rotating in late and waste a ton of their materials. What's funny about this item is this would be one of the best competitive items if they just didn't do so much structure damage. It just destroys every single build. And if it did like 10 to or 0 structure damage, it would still be worth a carry because the rotates from it are so good and it's such a fun item to use. So I'm not really sure why Epic overcooked this so much that it also just destroys everything at the same time. Obviously, it's going into the broken AF tier. Next up is the Crypto Treat, which summons Crypto the dog. Now, I have already died to this. In my first game, I managed to die to it, which was quite funny. What have I just died to? I've just died to the dog. But if you throw the treat down, it will summon Crypto the dog, and he will land on the tile that you throw it. So if you throw it on top of someone's box, it won't actually break it. But if you throw it underneath, it'll destroy however many layers above it possible to get to that tile. So if you're on low ground in an end game, you could just throw this down and break every single build above you, and it'll knock every single player down, which is insanely broken, of course. Next up is the tracking visor. Now, this has infinite ammo, and every 25 seconds you can send out a beacon which tracks where players are and shows their footsteps of where they have walked previously. Now, again, we've had the scan coins and things like this in previous seasons, and it's pretty much just wall hacks that you can get every 25 seconds for infinite amounts of ammo throughout the game. So every fight is just kind of slowing down. They scan me, I wait for their scan to stop before I fight. You kind of slow down the pace because I always know that they can predict what I'm going to do. It's insanely not fun to try and fight against someone with this who's actually good, because you basically can't make a peek whatsoever. Combine this with one of the boons that we'll talk about later, and some of the fights this season are very, very unfun. Obviously, this is broken AF. It's just wall hacks you can get every 25 seconds. Now, there is a new item that is not insanely broken, and that is the Mist Gauntlets. Now, this is for close range only, and I don't know if I'm just really bad, but here's my first attempt at using it. These things are arse! Oh my god! As you may be able to see, it's also impossible to see where you're shooting with this because of the projectiles. This is straight into the early game. I'm not taking this over anything. Next up, we've got 2 new sprites this season as well. The first is the Dash sprite. Now, when you throw this down, it gives you 3 dashes, which is really, really cool. If you're basically rotating past one at any point, you can just chuck it down and give yourself 3 dashes, which you can use to phase into a box, or just to rotate or to cancel fall damage. However, if you have the kill switch revolvers, you will pretty much always use a dash instead of doing the double jump, which is fine, but it's kind of frustrating that you basically can't have these 2 items together. The item's not really worth carrying, but the effect is really strong, so it's going into strong. Next up is the Superman sprite. Now, this is a funny item. Let's be real, this is a great item, but there's a huge amount of structure damage, just destroys as many brick and metal builds as you can, but it doesn't really do that much player damage. So it's going to be incredibly strong if you have 3 people holding them all at once and spraying, because I'm sure you'd be able to just completely grief a team, but individually, it's not really that worth carrying, especially since it overheats and the charge runs out relatively quickly. Regardless, I can't really say this is balanced because of the structure damage, so it's going into strong. And the final mobility item is the Wing Shot Grappler, which can be obtained from Robin for 600 bars. Now, it's going to be difficult to get in competitive. However, in pubs, you can basically just land on him. However, there is only one that you can get in the entire game, and it only has 20 uses. Now, it can actually grapple from 75 meters away, which is insanely far. And if you combine this with the Julies, which I talked about earlier, you can shoot a shot, and as you shoot your shot, cancel the grapple and switch to those Julies. So that's actually how you fly really far through the sky, where you're able to continually slow down and speed up again, which is very, very funny. Obviously, this is really, really good for rotates, but it's very, very difficult to actually get a hold of this whatsoever. So I'm just going to put it into strong rather than in the meta. Now, you may think it looks like an insane rotate, but if you're going to carry this, that means you're not going to be carrying either a visor or one of the base boosts, which again are so overpowered that it just makes this not really worth carrying comparatively. Let's move on to the medallions. There are 2 this season. The first is the Infernal Defenses medallion. This allows you faster reload time, but it also just gives you 50 shield passively over time. Now, we've had a lot of these medallions last chapter, and they're all insanely broken, and it's really frustrating to fight someone who has these with them. The thing that makes this even better is you don't have to carry minis. You basically just need to carry a chug jug or bigs or something like that. So you could carry an assault rifle, a shotgun, a base boost, and a visor, and then just one set of heals. So you're going to fight someone who's even more overpowered because they don't have to waste that second heal slot. Anytime you get hit, you can just box up, wait for your shield to go up as you're popping other heals or just holding a wall. So it's an insanely stupid item. Again, broken AF, another insanely busted item this season. The other medallion is the Shrouded Striker medallion. Now, this can be found by being core at Rift Island, which rather than spawning in the 4th zone like previous Rift Islands, now actually spawns in the 2nd zone, so way earlier into the match. This allows you to jump further, faster, and when you jump, you cancel all fall damage. It also makes you invisible when you sprint jump, which is really useful for mechanical players trying to do little side jump shots. However, it's not a must carry by any means, so this is just going into strong. And finally, on to the boons, and there are 4 of these boons total. The first is the Stormcaller boon. Now, this replenishes your shield whilst you are in the storm, and however much it regenerates depends on whatever hero rank you are. And if you're S rank, the highest, it also just gives you forecast. So you get infinite shield, where you could probably just trade Storm Surge if you're sitting in storm, and then it gives you forecast if you're at the max level. So yeah, I think this is obviously going into broken AF. Next up is the Speed Healer boon. Now, this actually allows you to sprint whilst you're using healing items, and then it will give you a slap effect for infinite sprint afterwards, which is really cool, and it makes running away from people very easy, I'll be completely honest with you. Once you rank S, it will give you the slap effect immediately when using any healing item, sprinting or not. Really strong. It's going into the meta because it just allows you for better movement, of course. Next is the Combat Acrobat boon, which basically anytime you do parkour will reload your equipped weapon, and how much again depends on your hero rank. And once you're in rank S, it will just reload all of your weapons. Now, the most insane thing about this is if you're pressuring, you can just sprint jump or mantle, or if you're using the pump shotgun, the sentinel that is, because it only has 4 shots in the chamber, you don't have to continually reload it. As you're sprinting and jumping, you're already going to automatically reload it there, which means you can shoot more walls, which does a lot of structure damage. So again, this is insanely strong and obviously the meta. And the final item this season is the Heightened Senses boon. Now, this I hate this boon. This boon is really frustrating to fight against, I'll be honest. So when you get shot, it'll show you where the other player is. Immediately, it will just tag them. Now, this is very useful, of course, because when you get shot, it shows you where you're shooting from, knows where you can cover, and you can take shots back. But if you are shooting someone from a distance and they have the boon, you immediately see that you are highlighted above your head. So immediately you go, oh, I'm scanned. And when you combine this with the visor, like every single fight, you just constantly know where the other player is. And that's not very rewarding by any means. It's really difficult to make any sneak plays, and you're continually getting hit over and over and over again. Unsurprisingly, this will also be very bad for surge trading. So when players are just sitting surge trading in towers, shooting each other over and over again, they're just constantly going to be able to see where the other player is. Unsurprisingly, this is broken AF. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. Of course, if you want to learn about the frustrating downfall of Fortnite's ranked mode, you can click that video right there. Bye!